Hola amigos, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos. Hello everyone and welcome to the first class with us. Hoy la clase es sobre los sonidos en español. Today's class is about all the sounds in Spanish. There's nothing more important than having a good foundation on all the sounds in Spanish so that you can sound like a native speaker. And that's what the class today is all about. Okay, so I'm going to teach you all the tricks, what to do and what not to do when you speak Spanish so that you can sound good. So let's get started. Vamos a comenzar. Let me make myself a little bit smaller. There we go. This is the alphabet. And as you can see, most of the letters would be exactly the same as in English, except for one. There's one right here that it's only used in Spanish. That is the letter ñ. And that letter has a very nasal sound. We use our nose a lot for that one. Ñ, ñ. Don't worry, we're going to go into detail on how to pronounce each letter in Spanish. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with the vowels. Vamos a comenzar con las vocales, the vowels in Spanish. So, we have the same vowels, as you can see, as in English. The difference, and this is very important and it's key, is that in Spanish, the vowels have only one sound. Only one sound. Whereas in English, I can't remember the exact number, but I know there's a lot of sounds. Okay, so there's at least over 10 sounds of the vowels. In Spanish, we only have 5 sounds. And what we also have is that we don't go up and down as you do in English. I'm going to give you some examples so that you can see what I mean. For example, and at home, I want you to repeat with me. When you pronounce the letter A, it will always sound the same, and it will be like this. A. A. So one sound and just one short sound, and it will always sound the same. A. E. I, O, U. Now, let me compare it to English so you know what I mean when I say it's not the same. Sometimes in English, especially when you have vowels at the end, you tend to have 2 sounds. So, for example, you would say go, oh. You hear that, it goes up and down. In Spanish, that's something we don't want to do. So we don't say no, we say no. So you see, it's one short sound. The same goes for the U. We don't say you, we say u. U. So having said that, I want you to repeat these words with me. Okay? So let's read them. Cama. Cama. Espejo. Espejo. Insecto. Insecto. Oso. Oso. And pay particular attention to this one because I hear some English speakers say it like this. Oso. And that's something we don't want to do. Okay, so one short sound. Oso. And then the U. Universidad. Universidad. Not universidad, but universidad. Universidad. Muy bien. Now that you know how these vowels sound, let's practice a little bit more. Vamos a practicar un poquito más. So we have the letter A. Don't worry about what this means. This is just for the sake of practicing pronunciation. Okay, so try to read this with me. La araña Ana teje su telaraña. Now you try. La araña Ana teje su telaraña. And as you can see, the A always sounds the same. Igual, lo mismo. Vamos a la siguiente letra. Let's go to the next one. Let me make myself a little bit small. There we go. So let's talk about the B and the V. This is a key sound that is going to help you sound really good in Spanish. you need to remember that we don't have the V sound. The V sounds like a B in Spanish. And now you might wonder, but when you spell it, how do you know which letter you mean? Well, each one of them has its own name. So for example, this one is B. It has a few nicknames, if you want to call them that. B labial, B grande, big B. And this one is V, or sometimes refer us to B chica as well. But both of them should sound like a B. So let's read this example. At home, read with me. El bolso de la abuela es bonito. Otra vez. One more time. Otra vez. El bolso de la abuela es bonito. Muy bien. El ave, not ave, but ave verde, vuela velozmente. Otra vez. When I say otra vez, that means one more time. Otra vez. El ave verde vuela velozmente. Muy bien. Now you know the V sounds like a B. Now let's talk about the letter C. So the letter C is very important because it has a couple of sounds that we need to be aware of. So if you come across a C and there's a CE or a CI, it would actually sound like this. C. Now, this sound might vary because the C has a couple of sounds or a couple of options, if you want to call it that. If you're in Latin America and the south of Spain, it sounds more like an S. So, C. But if you are in most of Spain, it will actually sound more like a th in English. So we wouldn't say si, we would say thi. And the same goes for the letter Z. So in Latin America, we would say sa, so, su, whereas in Spain, most of Spain, it would be tha, tho, thu. Now, the question is, which is the right pronunciation? I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong pronunciation, but it's mainly about where you're planning to go. If you're planning to move to Spain, most definitely pronounce it like a th. But if you're planning to go to Latin America, you should pronounce it like an S. But I just wanted to show you the difference so that you know which one to use. Having said that, let's practice reading these words. So I want you to repeat with me. Zapato or zapato. Cepillo or cepillo. Círculo or círculo. Zona or zona. Zurdo or zurdo. And if you have a little bit of time to pause the video now, you can do it and then try to read these words again on your own. Muy bien, so now you know there are two sounds, but it doesn't really end there. So what else happens? If you have a CA, CO, or CU, the sound will actually sound more like a K. So it wouldn't be sa, so, su, it would be ka, ko, ku. Now, is the C sound exactly like in English? It's very similar, but the difference is that it's a lot softer. So we don't say casa. You hear that strength that I put. It's actually casa. So make sure it's not so explosive. The K is similar to this sound, so we will pronounce this like this. Ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. And now we have the letter Q. So this one is key. Because if you look at this combination, Q-U-E or Q-U-I, which are very popular in Spanish, you might want to pronounce them like this. Cue, cui. But we don't say that in Spanish. The U between the Q and E or Q and I is always silent. No exceptions. So we say que, like what? Que, qui, quién, who. And well, the K is not very common in Spanish, but we still use it in some words. Let's try and read these words. casa. Repeat with me. Repite conmigo. Repeat with me. Cometa, cuadro, karaoke, querosene, kilo, koala, curdo, not queso, but queso, and not quince, but quince. Okay, so now you know the C is a little bit softer. Okay, casa, cometa, cuadro, karaoke, querosene, kilo, koala, curdo, queso, quince. Now let's talk about the letter D, la letra D. So is the D exactly the same as in English? Well, it's very similar, but it's again, it's a little bit softer, and the way we place our tongue is a little bit different. So we place our tongue between the upper and lower teeth, almost like making this sound, the. So you see my tongue is very much at the front. Let's try reading these words. Dedo. Can you see my tongue? See where I place it? Dedo. Divertido. Dinero. Ducha. Otra vez. One more time. Dedo. Divertido. Dinero. Ducha. Muy bien. Ahora, let's see the next letter. The letter F. This one is very straightforward, so let's just read some examples. Fantasma, fuego, fresa, flor. Muy bien, and I encourage you again to pause the video and try to read these words out loud again. Remember to make the D a little bit softer and to place it more at the front of your mouth, right behind your teeth. Now let's talk about the G, the letter G. So this one has a couple of sounds. If you have the G next to an A, an O, a U, or you have this combination G-U-E or G-U-I, the G has a softer sound, almost like the G as in gate in English. So repeat with me. Repite conmigo. Ga, go, gu, ge, and not gue. So the same thing that happened with the Q-U-E combination happens here. The U is silent. Not gui, but gi. Gi. Muy bien. Vamos a leer estas palabras. Let's read these words. Conmigo, with me. Gato, gota, gusano, guerra, not guerra, but guerra, guitarra, guitarra, and not guitarra. Muy bien. Now we have the other G sound. This one is G-E, G-I. That combination has more of a sound that comes from your throat. So if you look at these words, I know you might feel tempted to read them like this. Gente, gimnasio, but we don't do that. We have to pronounce them like this. Gente, gimnasio. You see? Gente, gimnasio. So G-E and G-I sound. Now, please don't hate me when I tell you this, but remember the rule that I just told you, that you have to make sure you don't pronounce the U between G-U-E and G-U-I? Well, omit that. Ignore that. We have an exception. If you come across this G-U-E, G-U-I, and you see that the U has two dots on top, that symbol is called a diéresis mark. And that what it means is that it separates the U from the E. And in this instance, you do have to pronounce the U. So here I told you just say ge. But here I'm telling you that you have to pronounce it and you have to say gue, gui. So let's try and read this word. Repeat with me. Repite conmigo. Pingüino. Pingüino. Bilingüe. Bilingüe. So you do pronounce the U here. Okay, just when you see these two dots, it's very rare that we come across them, but there are some words that require this. So now you know, if you see them, that's the way you should pronounce them. Muy bien. Now, what about the J? How does the J sound? It sounds just like the GE or GI. So, this one sounds he, he. This one sounds ha, he, ho, ho. You know, in English, when you're texting and you want to laugh, ha, 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 you say H-A, H-A. In Spanish, we actually write this J-A, 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 because this is the way it sounds for us. Ha, 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 ha. Okay? So let's have a look at some examples. Gerente. Repeat with me. Gerente. Gigante. Jaula. Jefe. Jirafa. Joyas. Juez. Otra vez. One more time. Gerente. Gigante. Jaula. Jefe. Jirafa. Joyas. Juez. ¿Qué te parece? What do you think? Muy bien. Bueno, esta es la primera parte. So this is the first part of the sounds in Spanish. Make sure you watch this video many times because this is very important, muy importante, to make sure that you have good foundation to sounding good in Spanish. Okay, now if you click on next, you will see the next part of the sounds in Spanish. I'll see you next time.